All right, hi everybody. Thanks for checking out my channel. And last time I was cutting stuff, I had been planning to cut both of these the same day I cut the, well, it turns out I think it's Dallasite is what I was cutting the other day. This stuff right here, I was cutting this. We had a little kind of a white pocket in there. So yeah, so Dallasite, it's a Vancouver, BC jasper, kind of brachiated jasper. And when I started cutting it, I didn't know about that. But somebody in the comments had helped me with identifying it. So that's what I was cutting the other day. And at the time, I thought I was going to cut these rocks here that same day. And it didn't go that quickly. So today, I'm going to look at this, which is Ocean Breeze Jasper. Now this one I know a little bit more about, just as far as the person I got the rocks from. I know that that's what they had. They had gotten it in a trade. They had a pile of it in their yard. It was, I didn't get any good pictures just of their yard, but if you go back and look at that video where I was bringing in 6 to 8 tons of rock, it was probably 6 tons at least. I had that trailer loaded pretty heavy. I think it was at least 6 tons. So this came from that. This is a small piece. I'm going to cut this today, and I haven't ever cut the Ocean Breeze Jasper, so I'm really kind of curious. I understand it has a blue variety and kind of a green variety, and inside there's rust and yellow and orange and black and blue and green. So I'm curious to see how those turn out. The other thing I'll plan to do, I don't think I'm going to get to that in this video, this one right here, which is much more pedestrian, I guess. Some really mahogany obsidian, but today focusing on this. The other thing I'm going to try, this will be kind of the bonus, is that I'm going to try and fit this big piece into my saw. I came back with some really large pieces of that Ocean Breeze Jasper, and I haven't done any measuring yet to see if I'm just kind of being silly to think that I can put this into my saw. My saw has the ability to open up to about 8 inches wide on the vise. You know, it's closed right now, but when this travels back, I get about 8 inches, which fits, you know, it's a 16-inch blade, so I can cut nearly 8 inches vertically, but the travel side to side on this is also about 8 inches. So I'm going to see if I can open this up to the place where I can get that thing open to fit one end of this in there. And like I say, I haven't done any realistic estimation other than just eyeballing it to see if that's possible. But if I can get this thing in there at all, even just to get a little corner of it cut. I'm going to move my tray here. I'll put that for later. But if I can get this thing cut to even just get an end off, I'll consider that a victory. Let's see, this side is the less pretty side, but if we, or maybe that's more the green color. I haven't seen a lot of the green to compare, but I'm pretty sure this is probably considered the blue. According to some places where they've collected this and have it available, it is a new find on the Southwest Oregon coast, and I think it only kind of came on the scene maybe in 2017. So as far as this special kind of place where this jasper was discovered and is being found. All right, so that's the plan for today, is going to try to get this smaller piece cut up into slabs and see how that looks, and then try to take a chunk, just try to take a chunk off of this monster over here, which we'll see if that really happens or not, but that is my goal, so that's what I'm going to try to do. All right, so before putting this thing in the saw, let's take a careful look at what we've got here. We've got one part here that it may have been cut, and that it's got a little oil on it, so it's darkened up a bit. That may have already, I don't know, it looks like a flat part there, so I don't know if that was maybe just cut a little bit before, maybe just in the collection of this. I'm putting it on a tray that has a little oil on it, so unfortunately I'm not meaning to, but I'm getting a dab of oil on there already. But if we look here, you got kind of those darker colors you can see. So that looks like a portion that'll be pretty dark as far as the blues. But you can also see there's some bits of white, orange. I'm a bit red-green colorblind, I have to admit, so if I get some colors wrong, I'm going to blame it on my mom. I think it comes on the mom's side, the colorblindness. The girls don't get it, the boys do, but the mom carries it. So I blame my mom and my mom's mom. But this looks like some oranges, maybe kind of some brown tones, maybe a little darker, maybe a black in there. I can't quite tell if this is blue, just that dark blue. And I don't know if the white will still be in there, if there's some white kind of quartz type coloring. Got some of those same kind of oranges up through here. It's kind of tough on the outside, you know, once we start cutting, I'm sure it'll look different, but some real dark, rich blue kind of color here. Again, this is some drops of oil that are already getting on it. Over here, got maybe a little more kind of like some quartzite looking crystal maybe at this end. So yeah, so that's the sample. This is the raw piece that we'll start and get the most cuts on. So I'll get this thing set up in the saw, but that's a little inspection before we line this thing up and start cutting. Okay, so there was like a little bit of a handle almost on this that gave me a couple flat spots that I could pinch with the vise. So this is the setup right now. It's in there pretty firm, tighten that down pretty well. So I think maybe if I had a preference, I might have slabbed kind of from the other side, but this, I think, way of getting a hold of the rock is going to let me get the most out of this if I slab the whole thing, which right now that's kind of what I'm planning to do. So that's the way I've got it held right now. So I need to make sure, I probably need to slide back so I don't catch the blade, but I got to run this thing back. And get this thing set up for the first cut. The first cut's always kind of the most exciting. You get to see a little peek at the inside and get an idea of what the rest might look like. This, I don't want it to, I've had, you know, cuts where as the blade hits, if it's sloped, it just kind of deflects the blade while it's cutting, and then you get kind of this ridged, kind of angled cut where it's not smooth. So I'll try to get deep enough with this first cut to get a good purchase, a good bite on the rock here. So if I can get it kind of in here and then take maybe this whole part off with the first cut and just see what that leaves after that. Let's see where we're starting to bite. You know, that could deflect a little if you can kind of see the angle there. That might kind of start to slide the blade over, so I might go just another turn or two. Let's see how this lines up now. I can get the carriage to move. Here we go. It's a little better. It still acts like it might kind of want to deflect the blade a little. I've got it pinched too tightly against it right now, but that's pretty close. I think as long as it gets a hold up here, it's going to make a smooth cut. So that's going to be, I think, the setup. Try to get it off the blade just a little. Yeah, I think that'll do. So I'm going to turn this on and get this all cutting, and once it's got a little oil on it, I may stop again and just look at it with all that oil on it, see what colors come out. All right, we're all prepared. So here we go. Okay, I've turned this on and I've just started some kind of makeshift oil filtering in a couple spots here in the building. I'm filtering some oil. This one I just moved. It had filtered a whole bunch this morning, but you know, it's only been in this thing for 20 minutes. It's got a little bit of oil that it's filtered through. So I've got all the dirty muck that I don't know if I can get in and see it. This one is about to collapse into the barrel that I've got it over, but I've got that dirty sludge from the bottom of the saw dripping into a pan down here, making some clean oil. And the point is, I turned the saw on after pouring as much oil back in as I could, and it didn't even spray oil on the rock. So I'm a little low. So I'm going to go, I'm lucky I am located near Covington's location in Meridian. So I'm going to head over and get some oil to top off my oil and make sure that I'm not running this thing in a way that's going to hurt the blade. So you won't notice the difference, but I'll be back and pour a gallon of oil in here. Okay, so being right near Covington, I was able to go and get some oil and have it here all in just a short span of time. So I'm going to open this thing up and add some oil and see if now when I run the saw, I'll actually get the rock wet. Here it goes. May as well clean things up while I'm adding some oil. I'm going to add the whole gallon. There's no reason not to. That's about, I think, 20% of what I've got. In here would be another gallon. It should be about 5 gallons in here. I don't know, maybe I can get away with less than a whole gallon. I'll pour some right over the rock here. All right, well, we get the colors out this way. You can see the dark blue and some of those other colors. This is gonna look pretty good cut, I think. That dark blue, I mean, that should look nice, I would imagine. So, all right, let's see how the blade looks. I haven't put the whole gallon in. I may as well put most of it. Try not to make a mess. I'm spilling and dripping a little bit. I don't know if there's any reason I wouldn't put the whole thing in. I'm going to keep about half of it in reserve and see if I've got enough. Just that way, if I end up low, I know to go to the store after using the rest of it. So I'm going to try it from here. All right, I'm getting oil spraying around now from the blade. So I think that I'm good to go as far as the oil being in there. It's just stopped. All right, what do we got? Check that out. There's a lot of different colors in there. The kind of burnt orange kind of color is kind of pops. That looks pretty good. Got some kind of quartzite stuff at this end, but yeah, I really like kind of that orange pop in it. And you got the dark blue background. That's a pretty material. Let's see here. So it's a little bit crumbly around the edges. I don't know if it's going to be that way, you know, to work with it in the middle. But on the edge, kind of that dark blue stuff on the edge is a bit crumbly. But in the center, I don't feel any pits or anything. So I think it'll be strong in the center. All right, well, anyway, so that looks pretty cool. Put this up here. You can see kind of that where that orange comes from. All right, so let's see what the other side looks like. Yeah, lots of interesting color. Just a lot of like huge variation from the really dark to the really light. Cool looking material. All right, well, I'll get another cut set up. All right, we're ready to go with the next one. So I don't know if we'll see a bunch of change as we go through here. I'm curious if there's patches that have a lot more of the dark material kind of all along the surface of the slab. Maybe if I cut it at an angle where that stuff kind of sits, maybe if I, had sliced it kind of through here on this plane, maybe I'd get full panes of the slab that had that dark blue material. I don't know. I have a lot more to cut, so I'll get a chance to tell later. But I think what I like best about it is this bright color that just kind of pops. That really bright color. Yeah, okay, get it going for the next cut. Alright, this is the one now that's cut on both sides. Battery's low, so I don't have a light on this right now. Let's get a little bit of light. So here we have it. Nice looking. The other side, almost even a little bit of depth. Like translucence and depth maybe in a couple places. Like up here. I don't know, hard to tell. I'm holding the camera and trying to get a look at it at the same time. Not much if there is any, but it has a little bit of that look. I still like those places where the color kind of pops. All right, I'm going to come out of the bright light and see if we can get a decent look just with the lights. Now I did get just a little bit of the blade getting run to the side. That's from that very first cut. You can see those. I've run my finger across them. They're not terrible, but you can see them here. I'm going to get it focused there. You can see them. That's where the blade deflected as it came across the rock on the first cut. But on the second cut and all the stuff going on after this, there's not going to be that. Now there may be some fractures. You can see where the oil's seeping in. I think that dark blue probably does create a lot of fractures. So I'll have to see as I go. I do feel a ridge right there. So some of these pieces will have a fracture that runs through them. But it's really pretty. The pieces that come off are going to be big enough to do something fun with. So let me get this turned around. I gotta move this light. This light's too much now. Okay, well, first two slabs. I'll get started on another one. Okay, so these are coming out a little bit fractured. Got some pieces that broke off while that last slab was cutting. But I don't see, let me get the light on it. You know, there's evidence of where it may want to fracture, but it's not through all of the dark material. Here, it's not obviously wanting to fracture based on what I can see. There may be a little, got fingerprints there. Yeah, I mean, there may be something there, but anyway, my point is there are some fault lines definitely in this rock, but they are not always going through the dark material, although it does seem to like to fracture on that kind of as a boundary where it doesn't have it glued together real well. So the pieces that broke off are here, but yeah, you can see where the blade was up into that one when it broke. But that color is really cool. I wish I could get something that wasn't so brittle that would just be a big piece of that blue. Anyway, the colors are really cool. So I'll see as I go on how much it wants to keep fracturing, but the parts that don't want to fracture, the parts that are true, you know, that they're consistent, those are some really nice looking areas. All right, I'll get another piece. I'll get another slab started. All right, this is what we got on the back side of things. I think we lost a chunk down here. Yeah, something I noticed while getting this set for the next cut too is the exterior, where some of this really dark blue is pretty flaky. Like it comes off just with a little tug. So, you know, that's the nature of this. I think I'll see with the big piece. I don't know if with this big piece if it's going to have some of that same nature, if it's going to be everywhere. Like that doesn't flake off easily. This doesn't have some of that kind of flaky exterior that this has. And I don't know, maybe this got worse once oil started to penetrate and get into the cracks and crevices. Maybe that made it worse. But you know, you can tell there's veins of this that run through, and it may be that this piece is worse than some of the other pieces. Anyway, all right, I'm going to get it going. All right, it looks like we lost another piece. It's hard to see maybe, but there's the slab that's cutting. I think on that left side, you can make it out there at the bottom somewhere. All right, so first of all, I'm excited because this actually switched all the way to the off position the last couple times, and I wasn't right here watching it, and so whatever the difference is, having it further back, it is pulling the switch completely to the off position. So I'm not as concerned about spraying myself with oil, but that's probably when I'll spray myself with oil, is when I stop paying attention to that. Okay, this thing though, like I mentioned before, this is breaking into chunks as it gets cut off. So there are definitely some fault lines in it, but I think there are chunks that are useful and usable. It really is kind of certain areas that seem to, you know, you can see the place where it's going to break. But that is definitely happening. This is stuff that comes off in some chunks. And it seems to be along the dark blue. So seems like I read that somewhere while I was looking at what this stuff is that the blue crumbles a bit more than the green, and I'm sure this must be the blue that I have. Anyway, the pieces that don't crumble are pretty cool. And let's see this in the light, and I don't know if I'm getting the angle good for the camera. You know, it's got a lot of oil on it still, but I don't see any fractures or kind of places the oil's penetrating in a piece like this. So it does have usable parts to it, but big chunks. All right, so that is the cut piece, and then this part here Yeah, this area here, I don't feel any cracks in any of this. So I'm still waiting when I do the big piece over there. That big piece, I want to see if I get the same kind of issues on that, because I just don't get the sense that this is the same, but it may be. All right. Anyway, on to the next piece. I'm excited that this switch is finally taking it all the way to the off position. If I don't open it right away, I don't know if it, maybe, if the blade's turning, I don't think that still advances the other screw. The other screws on this belt down here, powered by that. I don't think there's any reason that this advancing the blade would continue to advance the screw, and if I just let it slowly come to a stop, it'll move itself forward. Seems like once the power's interrupted, this wheel should stop turning. But I need to stop and watch it really closely, but it is, by moving that thing back a little bit, it is actually switching it completely off rather than just barely disengaging and staying hung, where if I open the thing and it release tension on the chain, it may flip on and spray oil all over me. Anyway, that's good to see. All right, still got chunky slabs. Got these pieces that don't like to stay connected, but the material that doesn't have those fault lines, like there's one I can feel right here, but the material that doesn't have those, it seems like it would probably handle being made into cabochons and things like that. Anyway, definitely chunky in other places though, kind of crumbly. All right, well, just continuing to get the slabs organized over here. Next one up in a second. Okay, next one up. It's starting to seem, well, I don't know. There's probably still some places that'll break off, but I'm hoping I'll get some consistent pieces out of the last part of this. We'll see. Here it goes. Okay, so this broke off while it was on its way through. If you can see where the blade kind of disappears behind the rock, you've got part of it that's still on the other side of the blade. So it kind of broke right as it got near the end of the cut. Let's see if we can get a view from above. That just lights up all the oil. Let's see. Not a great view from above. That's about as good as I can get. Okay, there, that kind of shows. There, you can kind of see it broke off the main part of the rock and it's just holding on there. It's not really cutting, just kind of hovering there. So I'll turn this off and take it out. Yeah, the parts that hold together have really neat color, and we'll find out if the big piece is going to have that same problem. Not a pretty set of slabs as far as all of this, but there certainly are pretty colors and workable parts inside the slabs. They don't stack up pretty, but there are some sections of it that look pretty nice. All right, well, I'm going to leave that piece and see if I can get that other big chunk into the saw. Yeah, I really liked that. But this is that other far end. So a bit crumbly. This piece here, you know, it got deep into the cut and then finally just broke off all along that kind of blue crumbly vein that ran through it. You know, some of these others broke off earlier. So the early part slabbed up pretty well, but it did have these fractures. I can see some pitting and fractures in some of these deep blue areas. All right, I'm gonna start trying to fit this in. Will this piece of Ocean Breeze Jasper fit in here? That is the question. Don't know if it will work, but I'm going to try to get this thing to fit, and I'm going to see if I can cut a huge chunk off that. I know I'm limited by what I mean by huge. I'm going to cut this size chunk off of it. So if I'm lucky, I'll get just that chunk off this end, or similar size, maybe just this chunk off this end. It all depends on whether I can open this thing up wide enough to make it work. So let's see how wide we can get this. Okay, we're going to try this out and see if I can get this in here. I'm not sure which end I want to cut. Let's see. I think this end is a bit more interesting. It's wider, but I think it'll fit. So let's try this. Oh, good. It's going to work. Check that out. It's going to fit. Is this too tall? Oh, it's right at the edge. All right, so I'm going to try putting this in and tightening it down. See if I need any wedges. I get as big a piece off as I can. So I'm going to get it right to the edge. Be right at the top of this. It may not cut it all the way to the top. We'll see. All right, here we go. Here's what we got in the window. Big giant rock right at the front of the window, just barely fitting in there. Okay, well, I stopped this thinking it had gone as high as it, or as far as it could through the saw, and I think that is the case. We're past the point here where the top was going to cut as deep as it can, and it didn't quite cut through, but I think I can take care of that. So, all right, I'm going to pull this out and give it a crack, and then get it in two pieces. All right, I think we can get this piece to come free. Let's see what happens. wedge it in there and do it even easier. Yeah, look at that. All right, it's free. Let's see what we got. All right, well, I need some light. My battery's low, so I'm gonna need a different light. All right, so that's different than that other piece, but I like it. It's got a lot of that bright color. Yeah, it's really cool. Some of these darker areas that are all... sorry, I got trouble holding my light here. There we go. This will work better. So here, this is all smooth. I don't feel any of those things that I felt, you know, those I don't feel any of those faults, kind of those spots where it was prepared to break. This is all nice and smooth. So even these dark colors, it almost looks kind of agatized right there. I can get that cleared away. It's kind of translucent, like maybe there's a line of agate going through, like maybe that's some of that dark blue. See if I can get the camera to work better. Combo of the camera and the light, since my battery's low. Right in there. I don't know, maybe that's not what I thought it was. I thought I could see some translucence there. Alright, well, this is really cool that the colors are interesting. I didn't expect so much yellow through the whole thing, or is that yellow? I guess that's what I'm calling it. That is an interesting pattern through there. I bet the yellow will make some interesting cabochons. I do like that bright color. And then you got the really dark colors in the other spots. I'm going to clean that up just a bit and then we'll look at it again. All right, well, pretty interesting actually. And it didn't fracture at all. Fracture was the word I was looking for. Didn't fracture at all, so it held together just fine. Well, I got this big piece in. I probably could lay it on its side and cut it and get all the way through. So I may do some more on that, but I've got a good sized chunk there that I know I can work with. Anyway, pretty cool.